professional, you need to know how to communicate. There are a lot of things you need writing to do for you, especially if you're new, you're trying to get a job. You need to be able to write to potential recruiters, potential people that will hire you, potential leads that will give you gigs, or just people that will potentially give you opportunities you need. So you need to write, you need to learn how to write. Sometimes you need to like reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn or via their email. So you need to write properly. Sometimes you see someone will drop a job and say you should reach out to you in their email. I need to know how to write to be able to properly showcase yourself very well. And also when you're communicating, like to clearly communicate what you're trying to share, writing is paramount and important. So in a moment, I'll just be handing over to Ifoma to just take us through Joy, to just take us through the class, and I'm I hope it's going to be a very good one. So welcome everyone. Let's start.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Okori from Joy, and I'm happy to be here with you all this evening to talk about how to get better at writing as a tech professional. But before we get into that, I would like to share more about myself. Um, I'm a writer, and generally, I write about technology and also blockchain, crypto, Web3 too. So, with that, I'm surrounded with techies like developers and product designers and the rest of them. So one of the problems too that developers encounter is writing, and reason being that in our world today, like the way things have advanced, where remote jobs are where remote jobs are now rampant, and unlike on-site jobs, you see that majority of what you do, like majority of the communication line is writing. Aside, let me say, calls like this where you have to talk, but outside this, like other parts have to do with writing, you putting down something and sending out. So with that, it makes it very important that everyone, especially like, okay, we now that in this line of work or career, that you know how to write, that you master the art of writing. Now, when it comes to this talk of writing, it might not necessarily be okay, writing for blog posts, writing to post on this, on that, whereas that is very good, but not everybody like actually wants that. Maybe they want to start publishing an article, they want to start writing on Medium, writing on LinkedIn, and the rest of them. The basic start from communication, like the basic start from like what you write and send to your teammates, what you write and send to your superiors, and the rest of them. Also, most times developers too, like they want to express themselves, like to write on these platforms like Medium and the rest, but they don't know how to put their thoughts together. They don't know how to put their knowledge and the things they know together to be able to make sense. That when someone out there reads it, the person will understand what they have in mind and what they're trying to communicate. So this is going to be conversational. I will talk to you and I will need you to respond so that at the end of the call, um, at the end of the call, it will be that everything that I've said is exactly what you need, and I will not just maybe be talking to myself or saying something that is not a major problem for you. So I would like to ask us on this call, as developers, as techies, like what what do you find like most difficult, like when it comes to writing? Is it okay, writing on LinkedIn, writing on Medium, like article writing? Is it report writing? Is it writing to your superior? Is it like now for a product designer, when you are designing a product, there are places that you need to write. Aside putting together frames, doing your button, doing this, your font, your color, and all of that. Like there are places you need to write. So what aspect of writing do you find most challenging? Can I get feedback? You can unmute your mic and say something, or you can type in the comments or message section. Can you guys hear me? Okay, Jumai, please unmute your mic and say something.
Hi, good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm fine. And
Hope you
you?
had a lovely break. Yeah, I'm good. I think the thing with me is like I'm trying to navigate which platform to use more. And I think maybe because in recent times I've been used to having to just make what I like my communication very concise, maybe like in just one sentence or something. So my challenge now is having to write like more lengthy words. I don't know if you understand. Like, so yeah, I think that's my own challenge. Just having to say more, and then knowing like when maybe an information is excessive. Do you get?
Yes, I'm with you, I guess.
Yeah. So that's my challenge.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback. Any other person that wants to say something?
Someone dropped something.
Okay, Ify has said the challenging aspect of writing is report writing. That's write lengthy words. Okay. Someone was saying something. Okay, I think that's all, and let's continue. While I've noted the things that you said, for this call, we also look at communication with superiors, we also look at documentation, applying for roles and reporting, which you can also talk about report writing. So let's start with communication with superiors while I come back to all the feedback and contributions that you've given. So communication with superiors. Um, Let me start with giving this example. There was a time I sent a message to somebody ahead of me, and the message delivered. It was a text message, not a WhatsApp message. The message delivered, and the person didn't get back to me. So I was now wondering, okay, being somebody I respect so much, I was like, okay, maybe the person forgot, and maybe one thing or the other like just came up and the person like forgot to reply, something like that. So another time, the person was now talking to someone else and was like, the message that you sent to me, I did not reply because the message was like this, like that, like that. I was like, oh, that means the reason why he didn't reply me the last time was I didn't structure the message very well. Like my words and everything was not fitting. So these two can happen to us, like as techies and communicating with teams and communicating in our workplace, trying to communicate with your superior, the CEO, anybody at all that is ahead for us. Because most times, like the roles we get or things like maybe entry jobs, entry roles, like or junior this, junior that. So we need to actually learn how to put our words together when communicating with our superiors, so that we are not misunderstood and everything that we have in mind, our intents are properly communicated. So On that, I would say the most important thing when it comes to communicating with your superiors is knowing the words you use. There are professional words for communicating with somebody ahead of you than when you are talking to a friend or a colleague that you're very familiar with. There are words that you use, there are words that when it now comes to communicating with somebody ahead of you, you don't use the same word. Because one thing, it is very, very different if you talking to somebody that you're seeing also is different from when you are writing. So when I'm looking at you, when you're talking to me like physically, and I can read the expression on your face, and I will tell when you are sad, when you are joking, when you are shouting, and all of that. But when you are writing, it's not always like that. So that's another thing that we should have in mind whenever we are writing. That said, for example, when you're communicating with your superiors, you have to how you start. Let's say there was a meeting stand up on today is Thursday, there was a stand up yesterday, Wednesday, and you were asked a question which required that you go do a research and come back to give a feedback. And you're meant to now, you are today being Thursday, you are now writing back to the head as regards the question that you were asked. Instead of maybe just jumping into the question and this is what I was able to find though and blah blah blah. You can start with maybe some organizations they don't like all those titles like sir and all of that. They just prefer to go by first names. So if that is the case, you can just be like, good day, Emeka. In response to the question you asked yesterday during the stand-up, I have done the research and this is what I was able to come up with. This way, like when the person is reading it, like it's just straight and it makes sense. That maybe when you come and you just jump into the whole conversation and just like, ah, okay, oh, I found that it doesn't really sound so nice. And most times, like communicating like that, you keep having problems and issues with your superiors. So please, while I talk and you have a question, you can just note it down somewhere. And when we are done, you can ask your question and we'll interact on it. So let's go over to documentation. So in documentation, just like the name, documentation, like the purpose or the reason for documentation is for reference. And if you are going to make it shabby or you're going to leave out some things, then why document it? So that tomorrow when we are looking at it, like the only thing that we are seeing is are the basic things that we can still remember without documenting. You are given a task to do and the task involves XYZ things. Then when documenting, you just write why. And that why now is without even writing it or without even putting it down, we can still remember the why like at any time. So you see that when you do that, the purpose or the goal of documenting has been defeated. So documentation is for you to like detail the process, detail like how everything went. For you to say, okay, this task was done so and so time. This was the things I was expected to do. These were the things I did, and this was how I achieved them. Like that is documentation. So anybody reading it or picking it up at any time to read will be able to like just when they read it, it will just feel like okay, the thing that you wrote just happened at that time. And they will not feel like okay, where is when did this happen? Why did this happen? Like and all of that. So then in doing the documentation, like inviting the documentation too, you have to also consider things that are required, things that the organization and the the organization, the team, like what they are looking out for. They are the things that you should also include, like the things that you should look out for to include in your documentation. So I think we should move to the next. Like I said, if you have questions, like just note them down and you ask your questions. Then applying for roles. When you apply for roles, you prepare your CV, your resume, and you send them out. Then in this applying for roles, There are two ways. You can write your CVs yourself, and you can pay like an agency company or someone who specializes on doing that to write for you. But even when you pay somebody to professionally do the job, when you send them the CV and they send you a mail, you still need to reply, right? So even in the applying for roles, we don't have to like turn a blind eye to that because somebody wrote the CV for us or somebody wrote all the whole thing for us. We paid somebody to do that because when they send you the mail and you need to and your response is quite different from the organized CV they read, like it will just look or sound somehow. So for applying for roles, when aside when you are paying somebody to do your CV for you, there are templates out there that you can follow and um write a detailed, organized CV. Even in the template that they will give you the headings, guides, things that will guide you. But personally, for this part, I'm looking at you now responding to mails, responding like when you are sent a mail, like how you respond. Mails generally, like especially when it's coming from an organization, they are considered professional. So you shouldn't like come to tell stories or come to like exchange much pleasantries or say this and say so many irrelevant things. On the mail, you should greet like okay, good day and anything you feel like putting in first. Then next should be you should address, you should acknowledge if they sent you a message earlier, acknowledge the one they've sent already before you respond, before you give your immediate response. Maybe you applied for a job and they've responded and be like, okay, congratulations, this is that. We will need you to send this or send that. So when you're sending, you don't just send the file and go your way, or you just write anything and go your way. The greeting is there. Good day, HR, good day, like the way they addressed you earlier, you address them like that. Then you acknowledge the previous message that you got, then you give your response. Now, even if you didn't get, let me say, a previous response and you want to, it is a fresh mail that you're sending to them. The first part, like, should the first two sentences should just be about the goal, like the main purpose of the mail that you're writing. Like, don't include so much like long details of the stories behind the whole thing or the back end of what happened and everything. The first two sentences you already addressed why you are sending them the mail. Then the story, if necessary, should come later. Then with a closing, of course. Like don't just add a full stop and send the mail like a closing, thank you, and all those anticipation lines you can include. Then for reporting, which Ikenna pointed out in the call, and writing lengthy words. Okay, I will also say that when it comes to writing, whenever you are doing a writing that includes you, that involves that, okay, you have to write like plenty. You have to write lengthy words. Thinking about the words actually like is tiring. Oh, I have to write like up to 500 words. I have to write up to 1,000. For me now that is used to article writing and all of that, like I'll be like, okay, 1,500 words or more than. Thinking about it like that like can be exhausting. And trust me, when you are exhausted, like when your mind or your brain is already exhausted, writing is like will already be tiring. Like to start, you don't even know where to start from, and nothing like will even be making sense to you. So I would tell you that whenever you're writing any piece that has to do with lengthy words, don't bother about the length first. Just what is required of you in that writing. Put them all down. And don't immediately bother about, okay, are you making sense or not? Or is your grammar correct? Is your English correct? And all of that. Just put down everything you think is required of you in that writing. Just write it as it's coming. When you are done, you can now go through. If you wrote it sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, or bit by bit, go through them. Trust me, when you're not going through them, that is when you see that okay, before this phrase, I needed to talk about this before I told them that I did this. Okay, I actually did this first. That you now write it down. You see, by that time, like it is coming together and it is becoming more interesting than when you are trying to figure out the whole thing before you start. It can be tiring and it can you will not be able to come up with so much to write. So at this point, I would like to take questions and so that we know that we are all on the same page. Okay, sorry, before that, let me talk about what Jumai um said how her pinpoint earlier. That's platforms where to write as a techie. Okay, there are different platforms to write, and just depends on what you are looking out for. Some persons are writing because okay, they want their knowledge or what they know to just be on the internet. Some persons are writing because they want they're looking to gain visibility, they're looking to be visible in their field. So as a developer, your front end, your back end, and product design and what be it that you are into, and you're looking to okay, you want to write, you want to put your thoughts out there. Okay, this is what I've learned, and I want people to know that I can do this. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. So the goal of your writing, like what you want to gain, determines the platform you are going to use. If let me say you are looking for visibility, a good platform to use for your writing purposes is like LinkedIn, like Twitter. Medium too is fine, but Medium I would personally recommend when you want to just document like your journey, like the things that you know, what you've learned, and on everything. Also, if there is a role you are looking to learn, and at the in the process that they will require you to share your portfolio, and your portfolio will include things that like articles that you've published or written on that. If that is what you are looking to get, then Medium and the rest of platforms like that is a good one. But if that is not the case, you just want to put your thoughts out there to gain visibility, then social media platforms that lets you write well, like I think Facebook, but I don't know, much of the developers and techies are not really there, but any platform actually can work for you depending on how you decide to harness it. But LinkedIn and Twitter are mostly the platforms like techies use to put their thoughts out there and get get themselves like seen or visible. Then let me talk about like when you're trying to also write on these platforms. I will talk about the article writing and I'll talk about writing on social media platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter. Let me take the article writing first. In writing articles, as a developer, what you are trying to do is you are trying to like tell somebody out there you're trying to solve a problem actually. Okay, HTML, you're trying to tell beginners that okay, when I started learning HTML, I did this and I did that, and almost it didn't work for me. So along the line of my learning, I now found out that if you do this first, it will be easier for you and all of that. So you also write in a way that when the person reading it, like they are done reading, they will clearly get the value you intended to put out. They will clearly get the value like you had in mind to give them. So how do you do that? Like I mentioned in writing lengthy words, like you don't so much focus on like okay, I want to make sense, I want to sound like this person, I want to sound in as much as that is very important, but at that point of writing, like just focus on getting your mind, your thoughts in writing. Okay, I've learned HTML and this is what I just want to write about on HTML. Focus on putting it down. When you've done that, that is when you can now organize them. Because if you focus on trying to put it together, organize it, make it sound nice, make it sound so good, make it sound professional, you might lose the whole thing. And when you are not sounding like that initially, you will lose the motivation to continue or finish it up. Now, remember we are looking at somebody who is not a writer, like your day-to-day work is not writing, but you are just trying to like include this into what you do. So you're going to make it, you're going to do it in such a way that you find it very interesting and fun to do. Another way to do this is this: when you are going through your process, or even when you are done with the whole process, in putting your thoughts down, you can just you can just put it down process by process. Okay, I started doing this, after that I did this, after that this was the result, and this is it. I found out that when I did this first, it gave me this. When I did that last, it gave me this. When you are done, you can now organize it and put it together, and it will make sense. In making it sound, or the grammar, the structure, everything, that is also a problem. Like, people who are not professional writers have, like, aside when they are done putting their thoughts together and okay, they have structured it, yes, when you read it, it's making sense. But the next thing is, you are not just keeping it for yourself. It's not for diary purposes. You are putting it out there for somebody else to read. So you have to structure it in such a way that when somebody is reading, like, every line makes sense. When where there is comma, there is full stop, and all of that and all of that. This particularly is one of the problems I have with developers and with people like product designers. So this is something that we should actually, like, pay very close attention to. Even without, like, all the writing things, you should pay attention to words. And is this line making sense? Is it saying what it should say? Is it communicating what it should communicate? So, for example, like, let me say graphic designers, for example, you see a very fine design, like the design is making sense. Then you now want to read the write up on it, like, for a minute, 30 seconds, a minute, more than that. You're trying to be like, okay, like, what's this flyer saying? Like, what's this person, like, what is on this flyer? Like, it's not making sense at all, but the design is fire. Do you get? So that means, like, they know what they're doing, but they've not paid close attention to the words, to the writing at all. Even in UI UX designs, apart from there is something I came up with. I said, good design. Okay, how did I put that thing down? I said bad writing lost a good bad writing, like, yes, when you make a good design and there is a bad writing, it makes that design dirty. But when there is a good writer, the design is bad, it blurs the writing. Like, when somebody looks at it, they are seeing the design first, like, and not your good writing. So everything has to actually, like, be together. When you've done a good design, you should the letters there, the words there should also make sense. And that is that for writing, like, lengthy words. So when you're done, you can these days we have AI, like ChatGPT. So in using ChatGPT, you still need to do, like, some level of work. Personally, if I want to use ChatGPT, how I use I generate my prompt, like, my prompts, because prompts are what guide ChatGPT. You can have two persons can have the same focus, like what they want ChatGPT to give to them, to write for them. But when I use a prompt and another person just use another prompt, like, ChatGPT will give both of us different things. We're talking about the same thing. Do you get? So when you're done writing, you can actually use ChatGPT to fix those grammar errors. Personally, before I go to ChatGPT, I prefer writing my things myself, like putting my mind, like my thoughts down first in writing before going to ChatGPT to be like, okay, like, is there anything you want to add or remove for me? That kind of thing. So that is when I want to use ChatGPT, because there are some writing that you can't use ChatGPT to do. You just have to, like, tell the story as it is. So, but for techies now, these are things that can help us to write better. These are things that can help us to put our grammar, like, when it comes to grammar, when it comes to organizing your work, when it comes to, like, putting it in such a way that you can put it out there and somebody will read it and understand. You can use tools like that to make it look better. And when you are using ChatGPT, like, personally, if I read an article that is written with ChatGPT, I will know, because I already know, like, this is okay, this AI written, this AI generated. I was telling a friend that, and she was like, how would you know? I just smiled. I was like, I would just know. that this is AI generated. So you have to put your thought, because ChatGPT did not do the process with you. And what ChatGPT will tell you is 80% or 90% what every other person like out there, like what is generally out there, like in different websites also. But when you are trying to be unique, you want to, when people read it, like they're not getting the same thing that they've gotten like from other places, but they are getting a new value from your article, from what you've written. Put down your thoughts first. Don't mind how long that you want to write it, but just put down your thoughts. Then paragraph by paragraph, bit by bit, sentence by sentence, go through it and you develop it. Trust me, while you are doing that, more things will come and you add them, and before you know it, you've written lengthy words. So let's move to writing for social media platforms. Writing for social media platforms like LinkedIn, like Twitter. Most times when you go there and you see people, and especially LinkedIn, like this person is sounding so professional, like this person is a pro in this and that and that. Sometimes it makes us hold back, and we wouldn't want to like put anything out there because we feel like, okay, we are not going to sound so good or so well. One thing I would say is this: social medias, it's your page, it is your handle. You are meant to communicate your thoughts. Like it's when I go to Ikenna's page on LinkedIn and read about HTML. Sorry, I keep using HTML. Like it's the basic thing I know about developing the world of developers. So I that's why I just keep mentioning HTML. So Ikenna writes about HTML, and Godwin also like wrote something on that. When I read the one Ikenna wrote, like I read Godwin's own, they might actually be saying the same thing, but the way they communicate it is what makes me like go to hit that follow button. Be like, okay, this person is like communicating in the way that is captivating me, like I can relate. And I have a developer friend, and most times when he writes things on his status, he doesn't care so much about, okay, if he's being a professional in the writing thing, if he's sounding so this and so that. He just tells you his story. He just tells you like, this is how I did it and this is how you can do it. And when people write it, like it's just so relatable and people love it. They learn and everything about it. So when you're writing for social media platforms, I'll just say that communicate your value in your own way, like in your own voice. In as much as the grammar and the whole thing should be there. But if you're the type that will want to say things that in a light tone, like funny, like do it that way. And if you're the type that wants to sound serious, like do it that way. In a way that your audience, everybody out there in social media have their audience, have people that follow them and have people that listen to them. So if you have been holding back putting yourself out there because of you're not so sure of if you're going to make sense, if you're going to sound so professional, if you're going to sound so good, don't do that anymore. Just go on your page, what you feel like writing, write it. And that's why I had to like make the difference between writing like say lengthy words for article, okay, you're trying to communicate this step by step by step. But this one, you're trying to tell a story, you're just trying to like put what you're doing out there. I did this today, and yes, 6 months ago I was not able to do this. I started this course, and after the course I practiced for so. Now I can do this, I can do that. And one thing about writing is once you do it the first time, just hit that publish button, post it. To you, you might be like, go, let me go and check who read it, who viewed it, and all of. By the time you do it again the next day, you do it again, you start owning that space. You start like it start becoming personal to you, and what people or who is seeing it or what anybody thinks like will matter less to you. So I think I should stop here and get feedback, contribution, and questions. So just for recap, I talked about communication with superiors. I talked about documentation. I talked about applying for roles, particularly responding to mails, and I talked about reporting, I talked about writing lengthy words, and I talked about platforms where you can write as a developer. So it is question time, and I'll be more than willing to take your questions. Thank you. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, you can unmute to
Um,
market. Yeah, thank you.
uh, okay, so good day. I hope everyone likes. Okay, if you're writing for if you're writing for like you want opportunities, let's say you want to get a gig or a job, like sometimes you see like a job you want, and to get that job, they'll say contact us on our email. And so, how do you think we should go around that writing, like in a practical sense? Like, let's say I'm skilled in this. How do you think I should go around the writing? How do I structure it in such a way that it attracts the potential recruiter or my potential, like it helps me close the person in a way. It helps me get the deal, the opportunity, and makes me stand out above others. I think that's a practical question. I think a lot of us need help with,
Okay,
because like it can be intimidating.
yes. Okay, this just reminds me. There some time ago, I was in a friend's room, and I just okay, looking at what he was doing, he was trying to like write a CV. My mind I was like, okay, this is not the first time this person okay, this person already has a job. Probably not one, maybe two, three. So why is he now writing CV again? Like they already have now that kind of thing. It was later I got to understand that in this space, when you're applying for jobs and you have to tailor your you have to tailor what you're writing to to that particular gig, to that particular job. For example, something is scrolling through internet, Twitter, and it sees okay where Microsoft say um they are recruiting for sorry something you are a front end, back end, what do you do? Okay, I don't think something's close to his phone. Jumai, what do you do? Or anybody that can hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, yeah, I'm a QA engineer.
You are
QA engineer.
okay. She is a QA engineer.
Yes.
That is what Jumai does. Then Jumai now, okay, let's say she's a QA engineer at Google. So and she now wants to leave Google, to Microsoft, and scrolling through Twitter, she now found that okay, Microsoft said they are recruiting you and they are looking for QA engineer. The first thing Juma should do is not just okay, go and submit the CV that she already has um with her, maybe when she applied at Google. She look at what Microsoft is looking out for as it regards that role. If they're looking out for A, B, C, D, fine. Then you should also look at like what the company is doing. Like because okay, both of the two companies might actually like be serving the same for offering the same solution, but in different ways and different value, different approach and all. So you will tailor your writing, you will tailor the things that you're doing for that particular company, for that particular brand, for that particular project. You wouldn't say, okay, um, this is how Google likes to do their things. These people like to do their things like this too. Or you now want to show them like, okay, this is how you should have done it and all. But no, when you are writing like things like that and you're submitting for a first time, you will show them that you have what they need, you have what they are looking for as regards that project, as regards that company, as regards that brand. So how you write to get feedback faster and feedback that will land you a gig or a job is when as the HR is reading it, the person is sure that okay, this person is going to solve our problem. This person is going to give us exactly what we are looking for. And not just that they are a QA engineer, that they are a QA engineer that can solve this particular problem for us. They know how to do this, they know how to do that. And that is what we are looking for. So that is how you write when it comes to that. So you don't just maybe have a general CV or something that suits all or for all jobs. You tailor your writing. You tailor your writing to the project, to the brand, to the organization you are applying to. So is that clear, or you want me to elaborate more?
I think it's clear. Telling your writing to the company you're writing for, and also why doing that, also showcasing that why you're highly skilled. I also feel that you should also give one thing I also add is also give instances to examples of impacts you've made in a company by your work. For example, let's say you worked in the company and you were doing tests for them. I noticed that their testing process was not very optimal. So you can just say, okay, just part of like you don't like just to brag, that optimize the testing process for maybe let's say the company is um galactic galactic um Galactic Express is a e-commerce company, and it's covered that the way they test their end-to-end testing was taking too long. So you kind of created you automated the process of end-to-end testing for them. So you can just write that out how you were able to automate end-to-end testing. And that's something that will make you stand out as a QA engineer. Whoa, this person can actually do this. This person has like these credentials. And I also feel like also adding like if you could add references to like some of the work you've done before, especially if the job just asks you to apply with your um just apply with your also if the job says you should send your CV, I feel if the job tells you to send your CV, don't just send your CV, guys. Also write something. Write a cover letter to the people, telling them about yourself and what you can do. Don't just send them your CV and just leave it as that. You also need to communicate to them why they should pick you. So I feel that's like what I'll add to it. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Does
that's
anybody
very true. Like this is correct. I totally agree with that because personally, even like as a part techie, like in my field as well, like following that particular like sequence and procedure or approach have also like made me see better results than when you just leave things like that, when you just send your CV like that. So adding a cover letter, like everything should just be detailed, and when somebody reads it, like they just know, okay, yes, this person is this person is that, and they can meet this and that. Also, they've done it before, and yes, they can fit into our organization to help us solve so and so problem. So thank you so much for that contribution.
welcome? Does anybody else have any question? We could take the class to a close. Kina, do you have any questions? Samson, do you have any question? Jumia, do you have any question?
No, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Uh, all right, all right. So thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for staying. Even Iken, I think you stayed from the beginning. Stayed from like one of the starts, and so I really appreciate all of you for staying and staying all the way to the end. Yeah, so we'll have another slide. We'll have another lecture tomorrow, next week, and be about agile. So for those people that want to know what agile is all about, because sometimes please can you unmute your mic? Can you mute your mic? Yeah, thank you. So when we're talking, we're going to looking at agile and why agile is important. You know, like there's been a lot of stuff about agile. Some people say that if you go on the internet, they'll tell you why agile is bad, and some people will tell you why agile is good. For me, I've worked in an agile system. And I feel like using agile. People that claim that they don't use agile actually doing agile, because agile is not just like a marketing term or something like that, or just so many meetings. Agile is a continuous way of getting products shipped continuously. So we're going to be looking at agile next week with a seasoned product manager, or we're going to be looking at agile and how to consistently deliver products in like constantly deliver products and be able to see through a project from the start to the finish. Even though we say that like software is never finished, but you still get what I mean. Like in a way that it's constantly improving from time to time. Instagram in 2014 is not the same Instagram in 2024. In that 10-year gap, there's been a lot of changes, there's been a lot of improvement, there's been a lot of new features that they've added to Instagram that makes it different. And without a very good agile framework, they won't be able to get that done. So we need to know how agile works in a company setting. Thanks very much, Ifoma, for taking us through how to write properly, how to get better at writing as a tech professional. One practical way to get better at writing is just to write. The more you write, the better you become at writing. At least you see like your errors more, and also like get people to critique it, or just bring it out, just show it out there. And the more you write, the better you become at writing. Like if you want to be good at job interviews, that means you have to also take job interviews. You don't just have to practice on your own. You still have to take job interviews, so you'll be able to learn from job interviews you failed, so you'll be able to get better at job interviews. So it's just like how things are. If you want to learn new skill, you have to practice it. So practice makes perfect. That's one thing I'll add. Thanks everyone for coming. Yeah, I'll share the recording once the recording is done, because after after I click on stop the recording, the video has to synthesize and create the record and create the video and create the link, and it has to be added to YouTube so you guys will watch it there. So yeah, so that's it for us. Thanks everyone for being part of the class. Have a very good night, everyone.
All right. Good night. Thanks for the organization.